What's going on, guys? Welcome back to United View. Yes, Michael Carrick has just finished his first press conference as Manchester United, what are they calling it? Caretaker manager is what they're calling it. Let me just move myself there a little bit. There you go. That's better. As the Manchester United caretaker manager. He's not the interim manager, of course. He's, as they're calling him, the caretaker manager. Again, whatever that means. It was, in terms of press conferences, look, you know me, I've done quite a few Ole Gunnar Solskjaer press conferences over the last sort of season or so far. And, you know, it was kind of what you would expect overall. Of course, we've got the quotes. Of course, we'll get into what Carrick said. It wasn't just Michael Carrick in there, the caretaker manager. It was the Manchester United captain. Harry Maguire was also in there as well. He had some things to say as well that were very, non-committal. It's what you would expect. It's what you would expect from a press conference. There's a couple of things in there that I'm certainly concerned about, shall we say, particularly when it comes to tactics, but not surprised about. So we'll get into all that. As always, guys, let me know where you're watching from. Be sure to put it in the free seats, El Presidente of the free seats. So let me know where you're watching from. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. The Maguire one, look, it's weird, isn't it? Because VK is saying there, Maguire is the last person to be at the conference. It's kind of I suppose for him, it is a kind of a lose-lose situation in the sense of if he was not in that press conference and another player was, what would be, and I'm not defending Harry Maguire, but if he wasn't in that press conference, people would be saying, the Manchester United is not even in the press conference. He's in the press conference, and what he said was nothing really of substance. But that's kind of what these press conferences are, unfortunately. You tend not to hear a lot of substance really in there. That's kind of how it works with these press conferences, which is always very frustrating, certainly. But we'll get into it. There was certainly a lot said. Mohammed watching from Beirut. I appreciate you joining us, Mohammed. Geordie Toon for life says from Northumberland up the Toon. A Geordie fan in with us this afternoon. Appreciate that. Lamon says from Berlin. Owen, appreciate you joining us from Berman. You know what? I'm so tired over the last couple of days. From Germany. I've just sort of merged Berlin and Germany into the same thing there. Raz from London. Tanash from Zimbabwe. Ezra says non-answers United. Let's get into it. Obviously, that's what people want to talk about here. They want to talk about, obviously, the quotes, what Michael Carrick has said, what Harry Maguire said first, and we are going to get into a preview. And it's tough to preview the game. Certainly, it is tough to preview the game. So we'll get into it. So first of all, there was kind of an opening statement, if you will, from Michael Carrick. So initially, he didn't take questions. He had a bit of an opening sort of statement talking about everything that's gone on over the last 24 hours or so. So this is what he had to say. He said, quote, "First of all, it's been an emotional day for myself and everyone at the club. Working with Ollie for 3 years and knowing the person that he is and the values he has, to see Ollie unfortunately lose his job was tough for me. Ollie understands that results in this business are everything, and as much as you build a foundation, sometimes you don't always get what you deserve. I want to say a massive thank you to Ollie from me and the staff. It's been a pleasure working with him. Football is football, and it's business as usual. It's a privilege for me to sit in this position, but we've got a big game to prepare for tomorrow." And that's essentially what the press conference was. The response to the majority of answers was, I don't know, I've got a game to deal with tomorrow. I'm flying out to Spain in the next hour or so. That's basically it. And realistically, what more can he say? There were a couple of things where they were asking him plans for, like long-term future, etc., etc. And for a fact, he was like, I have no idea. They asked him when he found out. He was like, I found out yesterday when I went to the training ground. I guess he'd heard things like everyone else, but that's kind of the situation. But he paid tribute to Ollie as he would. I mean, again, you have to manage expectations, certainly, I found myself, when you go into these press conferences, because in your mind, you can think, oh, what would I say, or what would I do, or are they telling the truth, are they being transparent? But this is the media game, isn't it? There's ways of answering questions, and there's ways of remaining professional and all this kind of stuff. So that's kind of, he paid tribute to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in that sense. So first, again, Harry Maguire, the Manchester United captain, for how much longer, we don't know, but the Manchester United captain, Harry Maguire, was in the press conference. He answered the question first because he had some media duties to do. They said he had some interviews to do, so the first questions went to Harry Maguire. Before I get into his quotes, Hansen with the contribution, appreciate the contribution from Hansen, appreciate that. As I mentioned, be sure to smash a like on the video, be sure to subscribe, bottom right hand corner as well, because it's going to be just a crazy, not even just couple of days, months, all this kind of stuff. It really is, isn't it? It's going to be just a crazy amount of time. So Simon Stone had the first question. Speaking of crazy time, Simon Stone said to Harry Maguire, reflecting on the last 24 hours, nobody expected what actually happened to happen at Watford, which I think he's being kind. I think some people would probably say that some people expected Manchester United to lose against Watford at Vicarage Road. I don't think a lot of people expected to lose in the manner of how they lost, the 4-1, how bad that was. So continuing with that, he asked Harry, did you and the players, did they feel after the game that the manager could go? And I think what he's touching on there and what he's tapping into, of course, is the comments the reports rather that came out, which basically said that the players after the game, some were in tears, some of the staff members were in tears. The players felt like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer had managed his last game, all that kind of stuff. I think he was touching on that. So this is what Harry Maguire said. He said, it's been a very hard time as players. The amount of respect we had for the boss. We've been on a journey together. The players need to take responsibility. We are in this together. Ultimately, the manager has paid the price. We are all so disappointed in that. We know we haven't been good enough. We have spoken about that. The lads want to succeed. For him to come in and talk to us yesterday, it was tough. The result on Saturday wasn't good enough, but the results of recent have not been good enough. Ollie has paid the price, and we have to take big responsibility too. So he's essentially saying there, that it's not just on Ollie, and it's not. And ultimately, the ultimate responsibility when it comes to picking the side and the results you get does lay on the manager. The buck stops there. If you want to get bigger and more grand than that, the ultimate responsibility really is on the board and the owners, the Glazers, Ed Woodward, Richard Arnold. That's where the responsibility lies, and that's kind of, when we talk about sort of structural reform at Manchester United, that's the biggest problem. I mean, realistically, we can talk about, caretaker managers, interim managers, permanent managers. Who knows if this club can ever succeed with the Glazers in charge, with Ed Woodward at the helm as the CEO. There's already been a report today, hasn't there, with Ed Woodward that maybe I should stay on a little bit, find the permanent manager, all this kind of stuff. And what better time than leaving just as you're about to leave? The club's in chaos and you're like, well, maybe I should stay to fix the chaos. But the crazy thing about that is he's part of the reason the club is in chaos. What kind of brainwashing is that? Oh, I better stay because the club's in chaos. Well, you've been in charge. You've still been in charge the entire time. The club isn't in chaos because you're leaving. The club's in chaos because you're still here. Like, that's just, for me, baffling. Absolutely baffling. I'll stay to steady the ship, otherwise it's going to fall into disrepair. Well, it's already in disrepair, but that's on you. That doesn't work like that. It's like crashing your car and going, don't worry, I'll drive it afterwards because otherwise it's going to just completely blow up. What? You're the one that's driving, mate. Like, just bizarre. But Harry Maguire said that the players have to take responsibility, and they do. Absolutely, they do. It's not completely on the manager. The manager, we can talk about tactics and we can talk about training methods and we can talk about formations and we can talk about philosophy, all of which was subpar under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Make no mistake about that. But these are still world-class players, some of them certainly. You can talk about Harry Maguire not being up to the level at Manchester United. That is what that is. But certainly players have not been playing to their level either. So I think everyone has to have a look at themselves. Everyone does. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer had to look at himself and go, I was out of my depth. The players have to look at themselves and say, look, it is just because the manager's training methods, it's because they're not great. Is that a good enough excuse for me to be losing 4-1 against Watford? Have some pride, have some professionalism about that as well. And obviously the people on the board have to look in the mirror as well. The problem is they look in the mirror, they see their reflection because they're all vampires sucking the blood out of this club. Moving on, the next question was from Michael Gray, and he kind of followed up as to what Harry Maguire was saying there. He said, is this a case of the players having to take more responsibility for how things have gone wrong at Manchester United this season? Maguire said, quote, the players need to take responsibility for everything on and off of the pitch. We are in this together. We are all so disappointed. We need to get this club back to where it was. And again, I look at that and when he says we need to get the club back to where it was, he mentioned where it was like 2 years ago or something like that. I'm looking at that going, what? 2 years ago? So that's what, 2019? We celebrating what we were doing at the end of the 2019 season? Are we celebrating not winning anything? Because we haven't. Again, I like everyone else was touched by the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, farewell interview he did with MUTV last night. Don't get me wrong. And it was the right time for him to leave. And I am compartmentalizing now. I'm not thinking about his time as a manager. I just think about his time as a player and a Manchester United legend and the guy that scored the winning goal in the Champions League final and the babyface assassin, all that kind of stuff. But to try and imply that 2 years ago Manchester United were dominating or we were doing great stuff, no. I'm also surprised, speaking of Maguire, because we didn't get any questions about this. We got no questions about his red card. No one asked him about the red card. Nobody asked him about allegedly throwing the captain armband on the floor deal. Nobody asked him about, the fingers in the ears, silencing the critics. Nobody asked him anything about that. And again, I know sometimes when I do these press conference reactions, I can sometimes moan and say that, and I know it's a game. I know it's quid pro quo. I know you can only ask certain things and certain things might be off topic and all that kind of stuff. I get it. But you would think the guy was sent off at the weekend and there has been criticism surrounding his captaincy and, the armband on the floor, all that kind of stuff. You would think somebody would ask that question. How is that question off limits? Because to me, it doesn't feel like it should be. That's certainly pertinent to what's going on right now. So again, I was kind of frustrated with that one, but it is what that is. That's why I'm not in a press conference, and I have no desire to be in one either, by the way. So the next question was from Tim Thornton. And said, Ollie obviously was at Carrington yesterday because, of course, he did that interview and he was there to get the news that he was going to be let go, all that kind of stuff. So he said, obviously, what did Solskjaer say to the players yesterday when he spoke to them? And he also said, do you feel like collectively you've let him down? Harry Maguire said, quote, the manager came in and spoke to us. It was an emotional day. He was a legend. He will remain one. He wished us well. He will be supporting us. He wants to win every game of football. He also mentioned that he didn't want to delve in too much about actually, specific words and quotes and all that kind of stuff. Again, he did his thing of the players have to take responsibility. The players have to take responsibility in what they've done. They've known the results aren't good enough. He said that, Solskjaer wished them well. And but he also said, and this is kind of, again, the frustrating thing about what Maguire was saying there. So he said, and this was the constant theme, the players take huge responsibility. Bruno, like he was going to the crowd at the weekend. It's not just on Ollie, it's on us, etc. But he also said, we're in it together. We've done everything we can. The lads have given everything. But recent performances and results haven't been good enough. That doesn't jive. That literally does not jive. You can't. If you're saying that, you've been the last few weeks, you've been doing everything you can and you've been trying your best and you've been working as hard as you possibly can, then surely that says a lot about your own levels, right? Surely that says a lot. If you're trying everything you possibly can and we're trying really hard, we're working hard, we're doing everything we possibly can to succeed and you're losing 4-1 away at Watford, what does that say? What does that say about your own levels? Because if I'm doing everything I can and I go to Watford and I lose 4-1, then obviously I'm not good enough. And I think that speaks volumes as well. And I get it. I know what they have to say. I know what they have to say in the sense of, you come out and you play the media game and you say the certain things, you say the football cliches, all that kind of stuff, and you don't want to be too negative in the press conference. But I looked at that and was like, oh, I did not understand that. I did really not understand that. Well, and of course, as always, guys, let me know what you think of the press conference. Let me know what you thought of the responses and the questions, etc. So the next question was from Andy Mitten, which was the final question to Harry Maguire. And he was asked, what do you think's gone wrong? And are you confident ahead of the game tomorrow? And Maguire said, I think in football you have ups and downs. The toughest time for many is at club level. It hasn't been good enough, not delivering individually or collectively. It snowballed from one thing to another. And again, that is, to me, such a non-committal answer. That is just, let's rattle off a couple of football cliches. Well, ups and downs. It's been a tough time. We haven't been delivering collectively or individually. It's snowballed from one thing to another. And again, because sometimes when I do these responses, I read, obviously, me, man of the free seat, so I always read the comments and I always read live and obviously after the fact and all that kind of stuff. And I see some people say, well, what do you expect him to say? And that's fair, but at least give us some insight. You can't just go, well, it's just snowballed from one thing to another. And what has snowballed? Can you be, can you be more specific? So but that's Harry Maguire in interviews. I remember he did an interview. I can't remember which game before it was. It was either before, I think it was before the City one. I feel like it might have been before Spurs. Either one, when he was asked about these defensive stats, like United have one of, if not the worst defensive record in the league. It's shocking, and we kept like one clean sheet in. Or two clean sheets in something like 20 odd games. It's ridiculous. And he was asked about it. He went, I didn't know about those stats. I just look at performances. But even then, you go, one, that can't be true. You know the stats because you're a professional footballer at Manchester United. Manchester United employ like 1 million analysts. You do know about the stats. On top of that, even if you don't know about the stats, which you do, but if you don't know about the stats, if you're just looking at the performances, they haven't been good enough either. So what kind of answer is that? What kind of answer is that? I don't know. I really don't know. Lamin says, I remember when Louis van Gaal and Jose got sacked, I was happy, but this time around it's mixed feelings because I feel like nothing will change with Carrick in charge. Speaking of that, that was a real eye-opening response to me in this, and it's kind of the one that's got me worried, really worried about tomorrow. Flex was talking about it the other day, wasn't he? Where he's called it like the Freddie Ljungberg kind of situation at Arsenal when Freddie Ljungberg was the interim manager before Arteta, and there was no bounce. It just got worse and worse and worse until Arteta came in. The concerning thing from our point of view, certainly, isn't it, that even if Carrick, McKenna and Phelan, they're going to be there as caretakers, all that kind of stuff, and there is no bounce, who's to say there's going to be a bounce when the interim comes in as well? That's the concern too. So we move on to Michael Carrick. This is what Michael Carrick was asked, because, of course, as I mentioned, the first questions were for Harry Maguire. So Laurie Whitwell from The Athletic asked Michael Carrick, thoughts on what he's been told going forward? How long are you going to be in the role? Changes that need to be made? What's basically going on? And then Carrick said, quote, in terms of what I've been told, my mindset is preparing for tomorrow, giving my best. I know the club very well, been here an awful long time now. It's the sacrifice and dedication you need, whether that is one game, two, or a stretch longer. He also said it's a big game for us in terms of the group stages, and I'll go about my job exactly as I know. So basically that is a common theme as to most answers he gave, where he basically said, look, I'm only focused on tomorrow. I'm only focused on the game. I don't know what's going to happen going forward. I haven't even looked towards the weekend. I was told yesterday, I'm focusing on the game. Which, again, if I am going to cut him some slack, when you've seen these caretaker press conferences, or whoever it may be, that's always what they say. They go, well, I'm only in charge for 2 games. I'm only in charge for this. I'm only in charge for that. I'm just focused on the next game. That's literally what... That's literally what Solskjaer used to say, though, when he was the opponent manager. I'm just focused on the next game. So that was kind of, not much real insight there, certainly. This was a good question. I did like this question from David McDonnell, who said, obviously, Michael, you've been on the coaching staff this season, and you obviously were on the coaching staff prior to that. He didn't mention this, but he's been on the coaching staff for a while. But certainly this season, how is it and why is it completely unraveled? Going into this season, there was huge expectation. You signed Cristiano Ronaldo, you signed Rafael Varane, you signed Jadon Sancho. You finished second last season. Yes, you were miles off it, but there certainly was an expectation that you were going to push on and you were going to challenge this year. You've had a first-hand insight. You've been on the coaching staff. Why is it falling apart? And Carrick just completely brushed it off. He went, well, now, he said, quote, not the time to look back now. Know what I could have done in my own mind better. It's easy to look elsewhere. As a player, I was exactly the same. For me, it's what's next is a flight to Spain and preparing for tomorrow. So again, he just completely brushed it off. Completely brushed it off. That was it. Why has it gone wrong? Why is it unraveled? Well, it's not the time to look back, isn't it? I know that it's not that he's focusing on the game, and I know he's preparing for the game, and I know he's not in the press conference because he's not going to go, our training isn't good enough, because he's part of the coaching staff. So he's not exactly going to come out and go, the training's crap, because he's running training. He's certainly not going to come out and say, well, the previous guy who was in charge wasn't good enough and he was out of his depth. He's not going to say that. He certainly isn't going to come out and slag off the board or anything like that, and he's not going to slag off the players either. So he's just going to go, it's not the time to look back now. Well, when is it? And when is anyone going to look back at this club? This is kind of the frustration for me. I understand business, and you've got to look forward, and you can't reflect on things too long. And the elite managers always look forward, and they focus on what's happening in the future. They don't dwell on the past, all that kind of stuff. But from my point of view, as a Manchester United fan, can someone look at the past? Can anyone look at the past and try and learn from it, and try and learn from the constant mistakes that have been going on over the last nearly 10 years at this football club? Can someone look back on the past and go, it went wrong because of this, we're not going to do this again? Because that's my worry right now when it comes to interim, end of the season, all that kind of stuff. And I do know that, we talk about the interim manager, and an interim manager might be coming in. I know that, possibly that could be changing a little bit. There's been lots of reports about Pochettino today, hasn't there? There's been lots of discussion or reports that maybe Pochettino would be willing to leave PSG right now. He's not happy there. He's not happy with the structure of the club. He likes the Premier League, and he realises the Manchester United job doesn't come around that often, and maybe he will leave. And to be honest, if it was a case of Pochettino would be willing to come in now, then I would take it. Again, I'm still not completely sold on it, I must be said. Because I would prefer Ten Hag, but if it's Ten Hag at the end of the season, or if it's Pochettino now, I take Pochettino now, because I think this season is salvageable. Not in terms of winning the league or anything ridiculous like that, but certainly implementing a football philosophy, playing better football, going on a bit of a run in the Champions League, winning an FA Cup. That is salvageable. That certainly is salvageable. I don't know if it's salvageable with an interim manager. Certainly not the caretaker managers that are in charge right now in Carrick, Phelan and McKenna. But if it was Pochettino right now, then we could possibly salvage it, and we might not. But that's what I would rather. We need change, and also as well, if Pochettino's coming in, and I don't want to talk people out their jobs or anything like that, but if Pochettino comes in, he's bringing with him his own backroom staff. He has his backroom staff that he's taken with him from Southampton to Spurs to PSG. They would be coming with him to Manchester United, and ultimately that would make Carrick and Phelan and McKenna redundant, and that's what we need. That's absolutely what we need. We just need a total reset at this point, and we need just a higher quality of coach, an elite level of coaching. And that's not just the managers, that's the entire coaching staff. So the next question, after Carrick sort of sidestepped why it's unravelled this season, was from Ian Parker, who said, do you expect to see a significant change tactically? This was the big one, and I would love to know what you guys thought about this. Raz said, they won't. If Carrick wins the next 3 games, we're stuck with him till the end of the season, and if he gets top 4, we're stuck with him for 3 years, and the Glazers' protest stopped. Well, look, I really would be surprised if Carrick wins the next 3 games. He's got Villarreal tomorrow, obviously, but he's got Chelsea at the weekend, and even then, look, I don't see him lasting to the end of the season. I don't. Even if he got to the end of the season, he got top 4, I just really would be, and this board continues to surprise me every single day, but I really would be surprised if they would give it to him. One would think they've learned their mistake, but who knows? I just don't think so. I think their mindset right now, again, in their mind, it's 2018. In 2018, their plan was to go after Mauricio Pochettino, and I think that's what the plan is right now. I think that's the plan. So this was the real, for me, eye-opening quote of this entire press conference is from Ian Parker when he said, should we expect to see a significant change tactically tomorrow? And this is what he said. Quote, we'll have to wait and see, really. I worked with Ollie closely with similar beliefs as a coach and manager. I have got my own personality, but it's very similar because that's why we work together. I'm not giving my plans away, but I am very clear in my own mind. So what we thought before, that basically Carrick, Phelan and McKenna staying there is exactly the same as having Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in charge, that's been confirmed. He's basically said, look, I got on with Ole really well because I think the exact same. I have the same philosophy, I have the same mindset. Whatever that philosophy is, whatever that mindset is, whatever those tactics are, but he has basically said, no, I think the same as Ole. And again, this is what we were saying before. Ollie was never a dictator. This was a collaborative effort from all of those guys in charge. Carrick, Phelan, McKenna. It's always been a collaboration. And they've all got the same mindset and they've all got the same philosophy. I don't know what that philosophy is. I'm yet to see it. But basically, he's saying, look, there isn't going to be much of a change. Maybe he might pick Van der Beek. Maybe he might pick some players that maybe, Ollie wasn't picking. In terms of overall tactical structure, philosophy, in terms of people expecting Michael Carrick to play 4-3-3 tomorrow or something like that, ain't happening. It's going to be back 5 or 4-2-3-1. If anything, it's more likely 4-2-3-1. That's what it's going to be because that's what he's saying. He's in line. He's aligned with Ollie. They agreed with everything they were doing. As I mentioned before, this wasn't a case of Michael Carrick sitting there with his arms crossed going, I can't believe what he's doing. I disagree with everything that he's saying. No, that's not the case. So he's saying, look, I've got my own personality and my own mindset, and maybe that just means a couple of players that maybe Ollie wouldn't have picked, he will. But apart from that, we ain't seeing this big tactical, revolution in the next couple of games or Carrick doing something completely different. We're just not. Because he's aligned with Ollie. He said it himself. So he put that out there to basically dampen people that are expecting to see this completely, big revolutionary change tomorrow, which we won't see. Because he's just going, look, that's it. I'm still the same. Austin Baker says, I wonder who will bring him the iPads. Oh, don't. He said he's going to have a Kindle Fire or something like that. He's going to have a Kindle Fire. So that was really, for me, arguably the biggest eye-opener of the press conference is like, it's the thing is with these press conferences, sometimes they kind of confirm your worst fears. You know what I mean? Sometimes as fans, you'll say an opinion or you'll say something, and people go, "Well, you don't know that. We don't know what happens inside the club, and we don't know that. You're being too quick to judge." Like, for instance, yesterday when the news was announced, and it was like Michael Carrick's going to be a caretaker manager, and it's going to be Phelan and McKenna, and the initial reaction was nothing's changed. A lot of people went, "Well, you don't know that. Carrick might change things." I went, "No, nothing's changed because that's the same brain trust. It's just the figurehead's been removed, but it's the same brain trust." Carrick himself has confirmed it. Carrick has confirmed it. So it's just, it was just when I heard that, I just went, "Ah." And that, of course, worries me about the game tomorrow because if nothing's really changed in terms of tactical philosophy and if nothing's really changed in terms of training or anything really, then we're in trouble tomorrow because we haven't played well in the Champions League so far. We haven't. We've been scraping through games because of Cristiano Ronaldo and going away to Villarreal, which is a compact, tight stadium, very good coach, very well organized, very well set up, very tactically driven. We're talking about a guy here that's very tactically inexperienced in Michael Carrick against a guy that's incredibly tactically experienced like Unai Emery. And that worries me. That really, really worries me. So who knows what can show up because you never know with like caretaker managers, but I kind of tend to agree with Flex on the one where I'm saying I feel like Freddie Youngberg. I really do feel like Freddie Youngberg. Next question was from Rob Dawson from ESPN. Mentioned obviously Solskjaer was let go yesterday. You've got a match tomorrow. There's like a 24-hour turnaround time. How difficult is it to put your own stamp on the team in 24 hours? Again, kind of going on what we've just been talking about here. And Carrick said, quote, "It's a challenge, of course it is, the initial reaction yesterday and coming to terms with the situation. You've got to focus, a great privilege to be at this club in any position." So basically, again, following on what we just said, you can't implement a tactical philosophy. You can't put your own stamp on the team in 24 hours. So we're going to see the exact same thing we saw under Solskjaer. We're going to see the same formation, it's the same training, and you can't change anything anyway. And at that point, like I said, that's when I start leaning into, well, that's on the board then. That has to be on the board then. But the reason there is no time is because there was time in the international break to make this decision. They didn't make the decision. Things completely went off the rails, and they were forced into a decision after the catastrophic defeat against Watford. Now they're scrambling. They're not just scrambling in terms of caretakers and interims and permanent managers. They're also scrambling in terms of tactics in games, and it's going to hurt Manchester United on the pitch as well. Even worse, and that for me is on the owners as well. Yannick says, serious question, would you stick with Ollie but an entirely different coaching staff? No. It's a total reset is needed at this point. It really is. Now, if Ollie, and again, I think that goes back to Ollie though, because surely the manager picks their own coaching staff. If Ollie had said, look, I'm obviously not experienced at the highest level. Yes, I've managed, but I'm not experienced at the highest level. I understand the club, but what I really need is elite level coaches around me. That's what people don't talk about a lot about Sir Alex Ferguson, especially towards the end of his career. Sir Alex, well, throughout his career, surrounded himself with great coaches, and he constantly evolved that. He didn't stick with the same coach for a long period of time. Yes, they left for their own reasons, all that kind of stuff, but he was constantly evolving. Was he running training sessions on the training pitch? No, I don't even know the last time he was doing that. He'd be on the training pitch, but he wasn't running sessions or anything like that. Think of the people he brought in during his time there, whether it was Steve McLaren when McLaren was a progressive coach, whether it was Walter Smith, whether it was Carlos Queiroz, whether it was René Meulensteen with Mike Phelan. He had so many different assistant managers during his time there, even if you want to go back to Brian Kidd, of course, because he constantly was aware, I need to surround myself with top-level coaches that have top-level experience. Carlos Queiroz did so well as Manchester United's assistant manager, became Real Madrid manager. Ultimately, he failed, but he came back, and it's not bad having a former Real Madrid manager as your assistant manager running the sessions. René Meulensteen is a very well-respected coach in terms of putting on sessions. I think Van Persie and all these other guys have said, he did great training sessions. He was a great coach, and Ferguson realised that. Ollie, obviously, there's several mistakes he made during his tenure, picking certain players, captaincies, all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, one of the biggest mistakes, I think, is not surrounding himself with experience. He surrounded himself with people that arguably had less experience than himself. Why? Maybe because that made him feel more comfortable. Maybe because it made him feel, less out of his depth. I don't know. The only experience there was Mike Phelan, but he wasn't even doing coaching sessions or anything like that. It was a quick fix. Get in a coach that's elite level, that's going to be running the sessions, and then maybe you could have saved yourself. That was the problem. That was a massive problem for him. There you go. Lamin says, Rio speaks so highly of René and Carlos Queiroz. That was the case. That was always the case. And that's was one of Sir Alex Ferguson's secret to his continuous success at Manchester United. He was always evolving in terms of his backroom staff and making sure he was surrounded by elite level coaches. That it's always in your personnel as well. So Carrick was then asked by Bill Wright, rather. Does Carrick have any? And this was the one where I went like, "Don't you dare, don't you dare!" But they always ask it in these kind of press conferences, especially to caretaker managers. He was asked, "Do you have any ambitions to manage this club longer?" Of course, what happened with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer? He came in on an interim basis and then became the manager for 2.5 years. Do you have any ambitions like that? And I was like, Bill, don't you dare! And I know you have to ask the question. I know you have to. That's what you have to do. I get it. But let's not go there. Let's not even go there at this point. As I mentioned yesterday in the full view, when I watched that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer sort of farewell interview by Manchester United yesterday, I looked at that and went, that would have been perfect if that was how he ended as an interim coach. That felt like an interim coach saying, I really enjoyed my time here. I hope they left the club in the best place. We had some good moments. We had some good times. I'll still be a fan. And whoever takes the job on permanently, I wish them all the best. That's what it felt like yesterday. And, we don't need to go down that route again. We really don't. So this is what Carrick said. He said, quote, "First and foremost, it's been literally a day, 24 hours. The game is not much further away. All I have been thinking about is the game. I have not looked past that. A limited time to change things, but a challenge I'm relishing. Great people, great players working with me, a fantastic group." So basically, again, he just sidestepped it. As he would, I don't know about you, I kind of cringe because some managers or some caretaker managers have done that in the past, not obviously at Manchester United, but you remember, what was the guy's name at Newcastle? John Carver, when he came in. Who was the guy that got sacked at that time? I can't remember who was the guy that got sacked. Was it Alan Pardew? It must have been Alan Pardew, or Alan Pardew left. Or whoever it may be. John Carver was the interim manager or caretaker manager to the end of the season. And he was constantly being like, I want the job. I want the job. I believe I'm the best manager in the league. I believe that. And it was just kind of cringe. And they were losing games still. And the guy was clearly out of his depth and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of roll my eyes a little bit when sometimes these caretaker managers do come into press conferences like, I absolutely want the job. I think I should get the job, all that kind of stuff. It's like, oh, come on. And that's when I kind of go, you have to play the game, don't you? You do have to kind of play the game. So he's just going, I'm focusing on the next game, is what it is. We've got nearly 450 people watching, only 124 likes. Guys, we need to up those numbers. Let's see if we can get it to 200. Or if everyone watching now likes, we'd get over 400 likes. We've got to get up those numbers. Otherwise, Flex and Josh will shout at me. They'll say, you didn't pause. You didn't pause and tell them to press like. You didn't tell them to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner as well. Considering the games that are coming up and all the breaking news that's always going on in the world of Manchester United at the moment. So yes, be sure to smash a like on the like button as well. The next question asked about to Michael Carrick was from Tyrone Marshall. And this was actually a really good question as well. And it's a point that I think a lot of people have been pointing out. Exactly. Kristen says those are rookie numbers. Absolutely. Got to pump those numbers up. Like they say in Wolf of Wall Street. They're talking about something else in Wolf of Wall Street. We won't go into it. Lamon says, take your shoes off, guys. Exactly. Take your shoes off. Relax. You've just walked in and gone straight to the fridge, opened the door. You still got your shoes on. And you're eating a Muller corner. And I'd be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Shoes off first. Sit down on the couch. Then have the Muller corner. Come on. Or any other yogurt. There's plenty out there. This isn't a brand kind of thing. So, yeah, you got to pump those numbers up, guys. Come on. But yes, going back to the question asked by Tyrone Marshall, and it's one that the fans have pointed out as well. I think it was pointed out last night, certainly on the Full View, that players like to know direction when it comes to their careers, contracts, transfers, and just the overall direction of the club. So players like to know the direction. What we're looking at now is potentially 3 managers in about 6 months. You're looking at Carrick as the caretaker manager, you're looking at an interim manager, and then eventually you're looking at a permanent manager. So in the next 6 months, we could have 3 people in charge picking the team. You're recruiting 2 people. He asked, is that destabilizing? Do these players need clarity? Do they need clarity about their futures, the future of the club, the direction of the club, all that kind of stuff? And Carrick again, he's getting good at this sidestepping stuff. He was pretty good at, side-to-side passing and dictating tempo. Well, he certainly dictated the tempo of this press conference because he said, quote, to be honest, that's not something for me to get involved in right now. I can't look past tomorrow night. Other people are involved in picking what's next. I can't discuss that. And also, look, in fairness, what's he supposed to say? What's he supposed to say? Very destabilizing. The club got to pull their finger out, and the board have to do this, and the Glazers have to do this. The club's being run like a shambles. What's he going to say ultimately? And again, the recurring theme that he just kept saying is, I can't look past tomorrow night. I've got to look. I can only focus on Villarreal. Other people are involved in picking what's next, which is true. Michael Carrick is not picking the interim manager. It wasn't Michael Carrick's decision to sack Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. It's not Michael Carrick's decision to chase Pochettino or be the number 1 target, like he kind of says. It is. He only has his responsibilities right now, and that's kind of it. But the question is completely valid by Tyrone Marshall, and it's true. We mentioned this before. We talk about Paul Pogba, and again, I don't want to constantly bring Pogba into this, all this kind of stuff, but why would Paul Pogba sign a contract when he has no idea who the manager is going to be at the end of the season? Even when it comes to an interim basis. I've mentioned before that I think Pogba's contract extension relies on success, or looking at Manchester United going, can we achieve things? Can we actually achieve things? Are we going to win things? Are we close to winning things? Well, you don't even know who the manager is going to be. That speaks volumes, doesn't it? You talk about Jesse Lingard possibly leaving in January. Maybe he might be sort of backing off a little bit because he's like, well, let's see what happens. But even then, he might just be done. And again, who's to say that this? Because an interim manager could come in, right? When it comes to, like, say, Jesse Lingard or Donny van de Beek, all those reports, Donny van de Beek's going to leave in January. Jesse Lingard's going to leave in January. This interim manager could come in and they could play Jesse Lingard and Donny van de Beek for the rest of the season. And these players are like, right, I'm back, I'm playing for Manchester United, I want to be at Manchester United, sign contract, boom. Or in Donny's case, he just decides not to leave. The permanent manager comes in at the end of the season, they go, no, I agreed with Ollie. You shouldn't be playing. Jesse Lingard should be going. Donny van de Beek should be going. Then you've got these players again, frozen out, and then they're frustrated again. That's kind of, that's kind of the frustration, and it's true. It is destabilizing, but that's on the board. That's the board's fault. There are ways to do this, and there are ways to have a succession plan. There are ways to give yourself time like these other clubs, and the board just manage this club. It's complete incompetence. It really is. This was an interesting question from Paul Hurst. He asked Michael Carrick, how did you become in charge? How did you find out about that? What was the conversation like? Can you give us a bit of a timeline as to what happened yesterday? So he said, quote, I found out yesterday morning at the training ground. Didn't know anything before then, which I doubt. Considering you can't tell me that Michael Carrick had no idea going into training that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was going to get sacked. Because if that is the case, he was the only one, because everyone else knew. We did a stream about it, saying that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has been sacked. It hasn't been announced, but it's been unofficially announced. Everyone's reporting it. You don't tell me that Michael Carrick's not following Fabrizio Romano or whatever. Everyone knew. Everyone knew. You might have heard the rumors, but he can say, "Oh, I didn't know anything about it before then." He knew. And again, he's at the club long enough. He must know. So he says, didn't know anything before then. I spoke to Ed, spoke to Ollie. It was a bit of a rush to organise training and speak to players, but it went really well, all things considered. Everyone dealt with it in a very classy manner. It's just about me preparing for tomorrow as best as we can. Players will be in a good place heading into the game. We will make sure of that. So that's kind of his timeline. I showed up. They told me what the situation was. I was like, oh, we still have to run training? They did training. That's kind of it. But, that's kind of the case. Oakley said, probably meant about getting the job, not the sacking. Well, even that had been reported, hadn't it? That had been reported that, that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was going to be let go. It was rumoured about, Darren Fletcher, but it was even said Darren Fletcher and Michael Carrick. Michael Carrick's name was always mentioned. The only person that, didn't actually happen with in the end was Fletcher, but it was always mentioned that Michael Carrick was going to be in charge, either with Fletcher or with someone else. So that's kind of the situation. So then this was an interesting one as well. Michael Gray said, what has Carrick told the players to expect over the next few weeks? And as he has said about pretty much every answer right now, quote, I haven't got into the next couple of weeks with all of the players. All about tomorrow night. A big game of football for me. It's a new challenge. One I'm looking forward to. Everything is geared towards tomorrow night. So more of the same there. Certainly more of the same. This was actually probably, this next question was the first time in the press conference that I went, okay, bang, that's a good answer, Michael. That's a good answer that I can actually buy into as a fan. I go, yes, that's true. So he was asked by Simon Stone, it wasn't just Saturday. There have been bad results over the last few weeks. What can you say to fans? Fans are listening right now. What can you say to fans to improve the results or, give them some kind of optimism going forward? And Carrick said, quote, the biggest thing for fans is results. I could say all sorts of things about training, and it would be the truth, but honestly, that doesn't count for much. It's about getting the right results and how we perform on the pitch. There is an expectancy at this club that doesn't come with others. And the first time I heard that, I went, okay, fine. I agree with you on that one. I absolutely, bang, that is a good answer. That is the right answer. Because that's kind of in contrast to what Ollie was saying. How many times did we have a bad result? Ollie said it before the Watford game. We've had a really good week of training. They've trained really well, the guys. The guys have trained really well. We've trained really well. That's it. We've trained absolutely great. We've fixed a few things. We've pinpointed a few things. All that kind of stuff. We fixed it. And in fairness, Michael Carrick is coming out there and saying, look, I can tell you that training's been good because it has, but it doesn't mean anything. What means anything is results. Training could be crap. Training could be rubbish. But if you win 4-0 at the weekend, who cares? Who cares? It is a results business. It's all about results. And he's right. That is the right thing to say. That is the right thing to say. I agree. So I heard that one. I went, yes, at least he's not completely naive to, I just look at performances. No, it's about results. Manchester United's results-driven business. And finally, the last question was, and then we'll get into a brief preview of tomorrow's game. Of course, this is the third time since May that Manchester United and Villarreal have met. What have United learned? And it was quite interesting, actually, to get Michael Carrick's assessment on the Europa League final, which I'm sure a lot of you will talk about. He said, quote, they're a very good team, well organised and well coached. 2 different games. In the Europa League final, we played very well, stopped them for long periods and had no cutting edge. A manner of the loss hurt, but got to say we weren't good enough on the night. I looked at that and I went, we played very well. What final was he watching? Because for me, I was watching that game and I was saying Villarreal, it was actually shocking how much Villarreal really dominated us, or Villarreal threatened. Manchester United really didn't threaten at all. We got our goal of Cavani, but
you know? What? So I'm not sure about that. I mean, he was right. We weren't good enough on the night because we didn't win. But I don't recall that Europa League final going, oh, Manchester United, we played really well in long periods of the game. What? He also then said they've got good technical players, speed, penetration. They have a good mix, good balance. We respect that. We'll be going there with a plan to come out on top. A big game for both teams, but one we can go and look forward to. So that was the press conference. Again, it's what you expect when it comes to these kind of press conferences. It's certainly what you expect when it comes to a caretaker press conference. All of the questions. I don't think he answered things horrifically, but going into this preview now, ahead of tomorrow's game, what to expect, my response would be more of the same, to be honest. And he said so himself. He said, look, about, will there be any tactical changes? And again, I think we're not so much looking at tactical changes. I think we're more looking at maybe some personnel changes. Maybe Donny van de Beek will start. Maybe Jesse Lingard gets a game, or who knows? Maybe McFred don't play, although I think they probably will, to be honest with you. The overarching thing is that it will be the same. It's the same people doing training, because Ollie didn't do training. It was Carrick and McKenna, so it's the same guys doing training. And he even said, we have a similar philosophy, me and Ollie. Our views are aligned. So that's that. We're going to see the same thing, John James says, he said we'll have to see, but that's what managers say. That's what managers say. They don't tend to give out. I mean, back in the day, I think Mourinho used to do it a couple of times and all that kind of stuff. But nowadays managers don't give out the team or the tactics before the game. But when he says, "Oh, we'll have to wait and see," but to be honest with you, I have a similar philosophy and similar style to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. We're aligned. That's why we got on so well. That's kind of telling you everything you expect to know. So when it comes to the team tomorrow, I would think De Gea in goal. Right back, Wan-Bissaka. Centre backs, Maguire will play because he's suspended the weekend. So Maguire, maybe Bailly, and that's where I think the changes might come. Maybe Michael Carrick might change personnel slightly. That's the most radical thing I can see. But I think he'll probably stick with a 4-2-3-1. I don't expect him to go to a 4-3-3 or anything like that. I expect 4-2-3-1. So again, De Gea in goal, Wan-Bissaka, Maguire. I could see Bailly maybe coming in for Lindelof, Luke Shaw at left back. I think McFred will probably play. I think McFred will probably play because again, it's the same people doing the same stuff. So I'm not expecting anything radically different. Then you have the three in front of the two will probably be Bruno. I think Sancho will probably start, considering he played well when he came on at the weekend. I think, again, you would think that Donny would play, but I just don't know. I really don't know if that would be the case. I would hope so. I'd see Donny come on, play instead of maybe Fred or something like that. But and then on the left, you'll probably see Rashford. I think, of course, no Greenwood. He tested positive for COVID. And then up front, we'll have Ronaldo. I really don't expect to see much of a difference. I really don't. Sufan says this is a great point as well. McTominay is clearly not fit, though. Van der Beek and Sancho have to play, maybe rest Rashford. That's true. McTominay isn't fit. That came out by, I think, Samuel Lucas of the Manchester Evening News or someone like that. It might have been Andy Mitten, actually, said that McTominay wasn't fit. He really wasn't. So this will be, again, one of those sort of things we have to see. Is Ollie going to make the same kind of mistakes that is Carrick going to make the same mistakes that Ollie was kind of making, in the sense that when someone like McTominay is clearly not fit, is are we going to see him playing anyway? Because that's what Ollie did. You would have McTominay not fit, you would have people like Rashford not fit, or you'd have Maguire not fit, but he would play him anyway. He would play him anyway. So it'll be interesting to see if Carrick follows a similar sort of methodology to that. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if he did, because it's the same people. Ollie did not run a dictatorship. Ollie did not it's my way or the highway or anything like that. He didn't. It was a collaborative effort. So I don't expect to see huge amounts of changes. If we did, obviously, if he did go 4-3-3 and all that kind of stuff, it's great. But again, it still doesn't change anything for me. I'm not going to be one of those people that even if we win tomorrow against Villarreal, I'm not going to be one of those people going, right, Carrick at the wheel, Carrick in, all that kind of stuff. No. It doesn't change anything, and it's a tough game, a real tough game, and it's just like Ray Diaz there says, I get we won't win it, but it would be a shambles if we don't get out this group. And that's a real possibility. It is. We just have to make sure we don't lose tomorrow. We just have to make sure we don't lose tomorrow. If we can just get a draw, get out of there, fine. We're on 7 points right now. We get a point, we'd be on 8. Beat Young Boys at Old Trafford, which you would expect. That's 11 points. That's enough to get through. Isn't it a case of if we win tomorrow, we would be through anyway? I think by something like that, because we would play Villarreal. Obviously, play Villarreal, be on 10, and then Villarreal play Atalanta in the last game. And even if they won and they went to 10 points, we'd be ahead of them on head-to-head, wouldn't we, or something like that? So if we win tomorrow, we're through, I think. I don't quote me on that. You can let me know in the free seats. I think that's the case. If we win tomorrow, we're through. But a point and then the victory at Old Trafford, we just can't lose. Just don't. Yeah, there it says. Daniela says we win, we qualified. Yeah, I thought that was the case. So I would obviously win, brilliant, get it over and done with out the way. But I don't know if I really believe that. In terms of prediction, you know me. You know me. I'm not the best at predicting. I'm really not. Every time I get asked, what's your prediction for the game? I go, I have no idea. And that was when Ollie was in charge and you kind of knew what to expect. Now I really have no idea. But even though it's even more uncertainty, you still kind of, I think, know what to expect. I do. So, yeah, and it speaks volumes for where we are right now. I just take a draw. I take a draw because, at least it basically, we're essentially through because we have to beat Young Boys. The concern would be, is it even a guarantee we beat Young Boys at Old Trafford? At this point, who knows? It really is, who knows? But I take a draw. But I am concerned. I'm really concerned because this could be a situation again. Michael Carrick is taking his first ever game, not just of Manchester United, but in general. This is the first time he's ever managed a top-level game of football, and it's in the Champions League away to Villarreal. Unai Emery is a very, very, very good manager, very good coach, very tactically astute. And if Manchester United aren't up to the level tactically, then they'll be in trouble. Look, at Old Trafford, Villarreal should have been like 4-0 up at half-time. The fact that we won that game 2-1, I think Villarreal had like an XG of well over 2 in that game. If they could finish and David De Gea didn't make those saves, we would have lost that game by half-time. Who's to say that doesn't happen tomorrow? We've been scraping through games anyway, so that's what I mean. I think it's going to be a tough game. I think it is going to be a tough game. Ray Diaz says, very important, Owen, are you going to be doing the game watch, the match view stream? Because your record ain't great, mate. No, I'm not. You don't have to worry about that. Every time I touch the match view, we lose or it goes bad. So no, I'm not doing the match view tomorrow. We are going to have one tomorrow. Flex is going to be doing it. I know he's got some plans. I will keep them hush. I'll keep them hush, but all I will say is stay tuned because there is plans for a match view tomorrow. But it's the usual match day experience tomorrow. We've got obviously the match view, we've got the match reaction, we've got obviously fan views as well, albeit virtually, but they are coming tomorrow night as well. So usual match day experience, but I'm not on the match view. I'm not on the match view, so we might win. We might win. There's nearly 700 people watching, by the way, guys, so smash a like on the like button. Nearly 700 people watching, still only 229 likes. What's the face from Home Alone? And I'm like Macaulay Culkin. Like that. Got to get those numbers up. As they say, rookie numbers. Ray Diaz says, well, ask questions about the match view and Owen pulls a Carrick and doesn't really give an answer. I give an answer. I'm not doing the match view tomorrow. I'm not. But there is going to be one. Flexy's going to be doing one. But there is some plans about it. But I don't want to spoil it. It's the same as Michael Carrick. Why would I come out? Why would I come out? That's not what I'm going to do. Steffi Jenks, you have to slap some alcohol on your face first. Oh, the Home Alone reference. I thought you were just talking in general. I was like, why? Is it that bad of a stream? I just got to start rubbing alcohol on my face. Willington says, I took my shoes off. Exactly. Took the shoes off. That's it. And Lamed says, nah. Like. Exactly, guys. So yes, as always, when it comes to prediction tomorrow, you know me. My record with predictions is awful. It is terrible. So I don't know. Am I confident? I don't want to be negative. I don't want to be that negative Nelly that's just like, no, we're going to lose, because we there might be a performance tomorrow. There might be a reaction. KG thinks there's going to be a bounce, right, doesn't he? KG's like, KG said, and this is the thing, if you remember things that KG says, it's crazy. But, if, KG said that we don't even need a manager against Villarreal. We don't need one against Villarreal, he said, because the bounce is going to be there. I'm like Flex. I lean more to, I think it's going to be more of the same and potentially could get even worse, right? It could get even worse. I think that's kind of my concern. So let me know as we wrap things up here. First of all, let me know your prediction, your score prediction for tomorrow. Let me know as well your predicted lineup, because I want to get you guys opinions on the predictions in terms of the score and the lineup tomorrow. I'm not expecting a tactical revolution at all. I really don't. I think we'll see 4-2-3-1. I think the revolution might be in terms of some personnel. I think that's about it. I think that's about it. I think, again, Donny should start. Donny should have started against Watford. He came on and was the best player on the pitch for us. So he absolutely should start tomorrow. Whether or not I think he will, I don't know. We don't really know if Carrick has the same sort of Donny agenda that Ollie had as well. So, we'll have to wait and see about that. Well, I don't know. Nihao says, we're either going to lose or draw tomorrow. We ain't winning. VK says, need at least a draw. A loss and horrendous for us. I say 1-1. David Lee saying 3-2 Villarreal. I'm afraid. Not a lot of confidence, it must be said. Downey says, I have a bad feeling for tomorrow's match. Maybe that will change the board's mind in the present coaching staffs. Well, again, going back to that, there is... obviously, those are reports today talking about Poch, isn't there? That potentially Poch actually would be willing to leave PSG now, and that he isn't happy there. He isn't happy with being essentially a first-team coach and everything else being handled independently of him. And if that is the case, Poch now, I'd take it. Obviously, I would. Like I said, I would prefer Ten Hag at the end of the season if it's an interim to the end of the season. But if you're saying interim, whoever that may be, Laurent Blanc, whoever, or Pochettino now, 100% Pochettino now. Because also as well, he brings his own coaching staff. So we get that complete refresh that we need. Raz says this is the lineup he thinks. De Gea, Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, Maguire, Shaw, Donny, Fred, Sancho, Bruno, Rashford and Ronaldo. 2-1 United. I think that's probably close to the starting lineup as well. Like I said, I think Sancho and Donny will start. Maguire and Lindelof, again, I think we might see maybe Maguire and Bailly, but we'll have to wait and see. Kristen says 2-0 Villarreal. Ray Diaz says 1-0 United, 3-4-2-1. So you think going to go back to the back three? Interesting. Gary says if Donny and Sanch start, I see us winning it. Interesting as well. Lou Manu says 0-0 for sure. David Men says, Poch now, permanent please, no interim. That would, to be honest, that would be my preference at this point. It would. I'm just not on the interim thing because I feel like it's writing off the season. And like I said before, show some ambition, pursue a manager, go after him. What's this whole, we couldn't get it, they're at a club. Who cares? The Manchester United job does not come up that often. Let's just go for it. Just go for it. United supporter says Poch will play attacking football. That he will. He will, Obviously, there is discussions about whether or not he can win things and his track record and all that kind of stuff, but we'll have to wait and see, won't we? Lauren says, De Gea, Wan-Bissaka, Bailly, Maguire, Shaw, Donny, Matic, Bruno, Sancho, Rashford, CR7. Interesting. Kenton says, De Gea, Lindelof, Bailly, Shaw, Fred, Van der Beek, Bruno, Rashford, Sancho, Ronaldo, 2-1 United. Interesting as well. And Willington says, we will need Bailly tomorrow. Quick feet and speed. Well, Bailly, last time he played in the Champions League against Atalanta, played really well. The only problem was the following game, he kicked the ball in his own net against Man City. But that's Eric Bailly. He's always got that in his locker. And you never know what you're going to get for him. You never know. So it's one of those ones. And like with everything at Manchester United, there is just so much news constantly going on at the moment. So be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms, by the way, as well. We're on United View TV on Twitter and Instagram, also on TikTok as well for the kids. We're on there as well. So be sure to give us a follow there. I think on Twitter, we're like nearly 15,000 followers. On Instagram, we're nearly, I think we're over 11 at this point. So yeah, sure to give us a follow there as well. Anyway, guys, look. I'll wrap it up there. That was Michael Carrick's caretaker Manchester United manager, Michael Carrick's first press conference. So we'll wait and see what tomorrow brings. As I mentioned, tomorrow we will be having a match view with Flex. He's going to be in the studio. I know he's got plans for that. Obviously, we'll have the match reaction with myself afterwards. Also, we'll have fan views virtually as well. So we're still going to have the match day experience. So be sure to subscribe. Bottom right-hand corner. Smash a like on this video. We still got less than 300 likes. See if we can get that up as we wrap things up here. Anyway, guys, have a great Monday. Try and enjoy it. Try and not think too much about tomorrow. And who knows? Who knows? Maybe we might see something special tomorrow night. Either way, guys, enjoy it. Have a good day. Speak to you again soon.